Today, we're going to try and cut through some of the noise around, well, a really huge topic, global warming. We want to get you properly informed about what it actually means, how serious things are looking right now, and maybe most importantly, what we can realistically do about it. So the mission for this deep dive is basically to pull out the key insights from all the source material we've looked at to give you a solid, quick understanding. Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with the basics.
Yeah.
We kind of know about the natural greenhouse effect, right? How gases, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, they act like a blanket.
Mm-hmm. Essential for life.
Yes.
Senseless warm enough.
Exactly. But the issue, the thing we call global warming, is how human activity is making that blanket thicker.
Much thicker. Right. It's mainly burning fossil fuels.
Yeah.
For energy, transport, and also things like deforestation.
Yeah, chopping down forests. And that's trapping way more heat than the planet's natural systems can handle.
Precisely. The balance is off. And we have data on this. NASA, for instance.
Yeah. NASA's figures show the Earth's average temperature is up by about, 1.1 degrees Celsius since the late 1800s.
That's right. 1.1 degrees Celsius.
Now, okay, 1.1 degrees. Maybe it doesn't sound like a huge amount.
It doesn't on the surface. But context is everything.
And when you look into the sources, what really jumps out is the speed, right? The sheer pace of this warming.
Exactly. That's what's fascinating and frankly alarming here.
Mm.
It's the fastest warming we've seen in at least 2,000 years.
Wow. 2 millennia.
Yeah. So Earth has been warmer before in its very long history, but it's never, ever warmed up this quickly. That rapid acceleration is the real challenge.
It pushes natural systems too hard, too fast.
Mm-hmm. Past their limits.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this. Just another half a degree could potentially double how often we see extreme heat waves across the globe.
Double. That really shows how these small numbers can have massive impacts.
It does. And if we look ahead, the projections based on current trends, well, they're stark.
What are they saying?
If greenhouse gas emissions aren't cut really drastically and soon, we could be looking at a rise of maybe 2 to 4 degrees Celsius by the end of this century.
2 to 4 degrees. And you used the word catastrophic earlier.
It would be truly catastrophic, not just for, polar bears or coral reefs, but fundamentally for us, for humanity. Food systems, water, where people can live.
Okay. Catastrophic. Let's bring that down to what we're seeing now, this 1.1 degree shift we already have. What does that look like? It's not just a theory anymore, is it?
No, not at all. It's very real, very pervasive. We're already seeing more frequent and more intense extreme weather.
Like what specifically?
Well, think about the heat waves becoming more brutal, turning farmland into dust, or the massive floods we've seen, washing away homes, communities.
Yeah, and droughts lasting longer.
Exactly. And stronger hurricanes, more destructive storms forming over warmer oceans. It's not just a run of bad weather, it's the climate system changing gear.
So it's changing the weather patterns we experience day to day.
Definitely. But it goes deeper than that into the planet's fundamental systems, too.
Right, like what else beyond the weather itself?
We're seeing enormous changes in ice cover. Glaciers everywhere are shrinking, some disappearing entirely.
And the polar ice caps?
Receding fast. And the direct result of all that melting ice pouring into the oceans, sea levels are rising.
Which is a direct threat to, anyone living near the coast, cities, whole island nations.
A huge threat. It's a slow-motion crisis for many places, but it's happening. And the oceans themselves are suffering in other ways, too.
How so?
They're warming up, which affects currents and marine life. But they're also becoming more acidic.
Acidic? How does that work?
Basically, the oceans absorb a lot of the extra CO2 we put into the atmosphere. And when CO2 dissolves in water, it forms carbonic acid, so the pH level drops.
Okay, and why is that bad?
It makes it much harder for creatures like corals, oysters, clams, even tiny plankton to build their shells and skeletons. It literally dissolves them or hinders their growth.
Wow. So that threatens the whole marine food web. Coral reefs, fisheries.
Absolutely. Coral reefs are like the rainforest to the sea, incredibly biodiverse. And fisheries feed millions, billions of people. It's a massive knock-on effect.
And on land, we hear about animals, too.
Yeah, significant disruptions. Animals are losing their habitats because the climate they're adapted to is shifting, or they're migrating earlier, or to different places, which messes up ecosystems, pollination, food chains.
It throws everything out of sync.
It really does. And
Wow.
all these environmental changes circle back to impact us directly.
Right. You mentioned food insecurity?
Yes. Changing weather patterns, droughts, floods, failing fisheries.
Yeah.
It all impacts food production. Then there's climate migration, people being forced to leave their homes because of rising seas or land that can no longer support them.
And the economic costs. Repairing damage from storms, lost productivity.
Huge economic damage. And often, it hits the most vulnerable communities the hardest, the ones who contributed least to the problem.
It paints a pretty grim picture, but you said earlier it's not hopeless.
No, definitely not hopeless. That's really important to stress. Confronting the reality is scary, yes. But being aware also empowers us. We're not powerless here.
So, okay, what are the pathways forward? What can actually be done?
There are actions on all levels, really, from individuals right up to global agreements.
Let's start with individuals then. What does this mean for, you listening right now? What can one person do?
Well, individual choices do add up. They send signals. So thinking about how we travel is a big one.
Right. Less driving.
Yeah.
Walk, cycle, use public transport.
Exactly, whenever possible. Diet is another area. Eating less meat, particularly red meat like beef, makes a difference because livestock farming has a pretty big greenhouse gas footprint.
Okay. What about at home?
Energy efficiency, simple stuff, often using energy-saving appliances, LED bulbs, making sure your home is well insulated, and just being mindful, turning off lights, unplugging electronics you're not using. Phantom load, they call it.
Yeah, that standby power adds up.
It does. And you can also support broader efforts, maybe donating to reforestation projects or choosing energy suppliers that invest in renewables, if you have that option.
Okay, so individual actions matter. What about like the community level?
That's where individual action starts to scale up. Getting involved locally. Supporting green initiatives in your town or city.
Advocating for change, maybe?
Yeah.
Pushing for greener schools or workplaces?
Precisely. Better recycling programs, more green spaces, community solar projects, things like that. Collective local action can be really powerful. It builds momentum.
And then the big one, governments, global scale action.
Yeah, ultimately, systemic change needs strong government policies. They set the rules of the game.
So what kind of policies are we talking about?
Things like putting a price on carbon emissions, investing heavily in renewable energy, solar, wind, geothermal, and phasing out subsidies for fossil fuels.
Making the transition happen faster.
Exactly. And investing in climate resilience, too. Building infrastructure that can withstand the impacts we know are coming: better flood defenses, drought-resistant agriculture, early warning systems, plus funding research and development into new green technologies. It really needs a coordinated global push.
So it's individuals, communities, and governments all needing to act.
Absolutely. It has to be all hands on deck.
Yeah.
And connecting this back to the bigger picture, the key message is that global warming isn't some far-off threat. It's here, now.
Yeah.
We see the effect.
But it's not too late.
It's not too late to avoid the worst impacts. We still have a window, though it's closing, to steer towards a more sustainable path. Every action, every bit of warming we can prevent matters.
Okay, so to kind of wrap this up, the core message from our deep dive today seems to be, yes, global warming is real, it's serious, the science is clear, and we're already feeling it. But, and this is crucial, we're not just passive victims. We have agency. You listening have agency.
Every choice makes a ripple.
Right. Every conversation you start about this, every small change you make, every bit of pressure you apply for bigger changes, it all contributes. It builds towards that more sustainable, more resilient future.
It really does.
So maybe the final thought for you after hearing all this, considering everything we've just dug into, what's one tangible thing you feel inspired to do now? Or maybe one new question you want to ask? Something that could be your step towards that sustainable future?